I'm Sonam Dangi here with my colleague Gaurav Ubnari. And we welcome you all here to the webinar on distributed testing and deployment. Okay, this topic looks quite easy, like distributed testing and deployment. We all know what is this distributed testing and deployment. But this activity is not that much easy. Okay, so here in this webinar, we are going to see the complete architecture of how you can distribute your testing process and you can perform deployment. For this, we are going to use Jenkins with AWS. Okay, so I'll be explaining you the Jenkins part and my colleague will explain the AWS related concepts. Okay, so here we will start with what is distributed testing. Okay, so we already know testing is kind of activity. It's a phase of software development lifecycle. It's a phase of software development lifecycle, and it is one of the most important steps that we have to perform. Okay, testing is like you are ensuring the quality of your product, and distributed testing is distributing this activity on different platforms. Okay, now Gaurav, can you please change the slide? Yeah. All right. Next one. Yeah, here in distributed testing, what we do, we have one master machine and we have different slaves machine. Okay. Now we have to perform some testing related work. Okay. That is here on my master machine. Now what I'll do, I'll transfer this activity, or I will divide this task into different subtasks and assign it to slave 1, slave 2, or slave 3. Okay. Now how it will help me? It will reduce the load on my master machine, that is this parent machine here, and the execution will be faster because the load is distributed among different slaves. So overall, you can say distributed testing is a simple term where you actually distribute your testing work. Okay, you are dividing it into different subtasks and you are going to distribute it on different machines and you will execute it in order to save your time and to distribute the load. Now comes the next term. Now let's see some technical definitions of distributed testing. That is, it's a kind of testing in which we use multiple systems to perform it. Okay, that we have seen right now. And distributed system, this testing, it follows master-slave model, where you have one master node where your task is assigned and you divide the task into different slaves and you ask them to perform particular activity. Okay, now distributed testing, it means that a test consists of several parts and each of them is performed on a separate computer. Okay, now we can see one picture. That's very easy picture for a master and a slave. This one, we have one master node, we have slave 1, and we can have n number of slaves here. It depends on the workload that I have on master machine. Okay, so moral here is, my objective here is, I'm going to divide my workload into different slaves and they will complete the task and return back to master. Now, why do we need this distributed testing? So clear objective here is to save time. It will save lots of time because each machine will be working in parallel. Okay, the load sharing, I'm sharing the resources on different machines. Okay, in turn my load is shared. It's better, it's faster, and it also provides us resource sharing parallelly. Okay, now this is all about distributed testing. So the second term of this webinar is deployment. So deployment is the last phase of our software development life cycle. Once we develop our software, we test it, and after that we need to deploy it. Okay, so once the software testing phase is over and you have no bugs left in your software, then it's the right time that you can deploy it. All right. Now, for distributed testing and deployment, we are going to use Jenkins here. Okay, let's move to next. So here we are going to discuss this architecture, which looks quite complex for us now. We will be dividing it into different steps one by one, and we will explain each here. Okay. So before moving ahead, before dividing that architecture into steps, first of all, we'll discuss about what is Jenkins. Okay. So Jenkins is your continuous integration and continuous deployment tool. Okay, this is a simple 2 words in which you can define Jenkins. Okay, now Jenkins is a self-contained open source automation server which can be used to automate all sort of tasks related to building, testing, delivering, or deploying software. Okay, Jenkins provide you so many facilities like you can distribute your load on different machines. Here in Jenkins, by using Jenkins itself, you can create a master node, you can create different slave nodes, and you can run your job on slave nodes. Okay, so let's discuss different components of Jenkins. Now, before moving on to components, first of all, let's see what will be the life of a project or the project life cycle without Jenkins. Okay, if we don't have Jenkins, then how my project execution will look. Okay, let's look at the example. Look at this diagram. Here in a normal system, we have different modules. Okay, we have AND modules. What are these modules? Like, say we are developing IT Loan 360. Okay, somewhere I am developing a login form, somewhere somebody else is developing the registration form, somebody else is developing homepage, and there are so many things that are going on parallelly. Okay, so what I have to do, I have to pick each and every module, I have to execute it, build it, and need to deploy the complete system. When you're not using Jenkins, normally this process is sequential. Sequential in the terms, one by one, it will pick each module. Like, first of all, module 1 will be executed. Once it is done, then module 2 will come. Once it is done, then module 3 will come. Okay, so in this system, we have one issue. The issue is that until your module is executed, you have to wait. Let's say my module homepage is ready. Okay, that's module number 3. But I have to wait till my module 1, module 2 is executed. Okay, once this execution is done, then only my turn will come. My module 3 will be executed, and then only I'll get the status. Okay, it is successful or if it is failed. Now, if we are using Jenkins, then we have a different flow. Okay, we keep this code. The process here is parallel. Okay, developers give their code directly to Jenkins. Every module it can take at the same time. Let's say we have one module, so Jenkins can pick all of these modules together at the same time. Okay, and it can distribute it on different machines and execute it. Once done, it can deploy the final product. So here the process is not sequential. So we are executing and building everything parallelly. All right. So this is Jenkins flow. Now let's come back to Jenkins. Before we actually discuss the architecture, or before we actually execute our code or our job, we need to understand some points or some components of Jenkins. If you are not aware of what is Jenkins, I think this much knowledge will be enough. Jenkins provide you a job. Job is a kind of activity or a task that you assign or that you are going to run. Okay. Now plugins, we use different plugins to integrate Jenkins with different kind of software. Like we are going to use Git plugin, Maven, Git is already available, and for AWS plugin also. So to integrate Jenkins with different platforms or different tools, we are going to use different plugins. Okay. Now pipeline. Here we are going to use pipeline. Pipeline is that you have 2 to 3 jobs in a sequence. Okay. Now once your job 1 is executed, if it is successful, then your job 2 will get executed. Job is nothing. It's a kind of activity that we have. Okay. So if job 1 is successfully done, then only job 2 will come into the play. Okay. And then it will be executed. If my job 1 fails, then job 2 will not be executed. So that's called as a pipeline. Here we are going to use pipeline. Now console, just like we are very much aware of the Eclipse console, just like that, here we have console on which we can see the output. The successful execution or the failure, whatever the status is, we can see on console. Now this is all about components of Jenkins. Let's go ahead and see this architecture. Okay, now we will see job flow in Jenkins. In every company, for every product, we have a developers team. Okay, so this developers team will push this code in central code repository. Let's say Git repository or any other repository we have. So developers will develop the code in different modules. Okay, and after developing, they will continuously push the code in centralized code repository. Okay, now your code is present in this repository. Now Jenkins is responsible to pull this code whenever new code is pushed here in this repository. Okay, as you push something here in the code repository, it triggers a build here in the Jenkins. Now Jenkins will pull your recently updated code and it will build that code. Now after build, you will definitely get a status whether fail or pass. Please go back. You will get a status pass or fail. Now, in every case, whether it's pass or fail, it will give you some notification. Okay, notification to the respective team member. It can be your senior or a colleague or a developer in your team. Okay, so if it's pass, then you can perform another activity. If it's fail, you can give this code back to your developer and say, hey, there is a bug, you need to fix it. Once this whole activity is done, it will exit this process. Okay, so this is a complete job flow of Jenkins. Okay, let's go ahead. And now we will divide the whole architecture into different steps. Okay, so pay attention here. We have one job that is master job. Okay, I told you we are going to work on different machines, that is master and slave. Okay, the job that I am running on master machine, I am calling it as a master job. Okay, so this is my master job on the left side, and on the right side I have two systems. I have two processes. The first one is distributed testing and the second system is deployment. Okay, so distributed testing I'll perform on two slaves, slave 1 and slave 2. On slave 1, I'm going to run one job named as job 1. On slave 2, I'm running a job that is job 2. Okay. And this deployment work here, I have job 3 that is itself getting executed on my master machine. Okay. So here overall we have two processes. We have distributed testing process and then we have deployment process. But hold on, there is one condition. If your distributed testing is successfully executed, then only you will be able to trigger this deployment process. Okay. If because of any condition your this distributed testing process fails, you will not be able to trigger deployment process. Okay. Let's see next picture. Here, let's take a clear view of slave 1. Okay. So that's slave 1 and I'm running on this job 1. Okay, so what this slave 1 will do? Slave 1 will pick code from repository. Okay, it will load all the dependencies like Maven dependency or Git dependency, AWS, whatever it want, it will load every dependency here and then it will execute it. Okay, so after execution, it will generate some status and return it back to our master node. Okay, let's go next. Here you can see my master job. Okay, that is my master machine. It will execute, it will trigger distributed testing process. Okay, it will trigger, it means it's going to run a job on slave machine. You can create a slave directly on your Jenkins machine by some configuration and some stuff of work. So I'm running a job on slave machine 1 and the job name is job 1. Okay, and second job 2 on slave 2. Now slave 1 and slave 2, they are working parallelly. Okay, they are executing some code, they will build it and they will provide me the status. Okay, for slave 1 also and for slave 2 also I'll get a status. Status will be build is successful or build fail. If my build is fail, okay, so there are various reasons for build fail. One of the reason is low internet connectivity or some kind of unexpected internet failure. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to retry, we are going to run the same job 2 times. Okay, just to make sure if there is any internet related issue, we'll run it again. Okay, now after 2 retries, if my job again fails, I'll notify my master node or master job like build fail. Okay, notify and I'll exit. All right, now in case job 1 and job 2, if they are executed successfully, okay, then I need not to retry again. If build is successful, I'll notify to my master job, yes, it's successful, notify and exit. Now once this is successful, then I'll launch the deployment. Okay, I'll call the master job 3. Yeah, can we go ahead? Okay, so here comes the integration of Jenkins with AWS. Okay. The job 3 is your deployment job, and for that we are going to create an instance of AWS. And now from here, I would like to call my colleague Gaurav here, and he will explain remaining steps one by one.
Thanks,
Gaurav?
Sonam. Yeah, thanks, Sonam. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Gaurav, and I am the cloud instructor at IT Learn 360, and I am going to guide you with the deployment phase. So here we are going to integrate Jenkins with AWS. So first of all, we are going to talk about CloudFormation, AWS CloudFormation. So basically, AWS CloudFormation is an orchestration tool which will deploy resources on the cloud. Okay, so using CloudFormation, we can deploy servers, we can deploy database servers, we can configure networking, we can configure domain, everything CloudFormation will do for you. So basically, it is an automation tool. It will configure whole infrastructure for us using a single template. Okay, so CloudFormation uses a template called .json template or a YAML template. Okay, so we just need to write a template, and like we need some instances, or we need a database server, or we need to configure a VPC. Everything this CloudFormation script will do for us. So this is the workflow. How does CloudFormation works? So we have a template, and with that template we store in our S3 bucket. Okay, so the template can be a JSON file or a YAML file. And using that template, we use CloudFormation, AWS CloudFormation to deploy that template. And AWS CloudFormation takes care of deploying our infrastructure. It will launch instances, database servers, and everything required for your infrastructure, it will be deployed for us. So here in deployment phase, what we are going to talk about is we are going to launch a Tomcat server. Okay, so basically in testing part, what we are doing, we are going to test a Java code, and using that Java code, if everything is fine in that Java code, we have applied some test cases. If everything is passed, if everything is success, then we'll move over to the deployment phase. And in deployment phase, we are using a JSON script, a CloudFormation script, which will launch an instance in the cloud for us. And that instance is an Tomcat server. And in the job 4, if everything works fine in the job 3, if the job 3 is success, then it will move to the 4th job. The 4th job is code deployment. Okay, like the code which we have checked in job 1 and job 2, if it is fine, so that job 4 code will be deployed on our instance. Okay, and that instance is running a Tomcat server, and it will display a website for us. And if this job 1 or job 2 fails, so job 3 and job 4, the deployment phase will not be executed. If the testing part, the testing phase is fine, then only deployment will be executed. So this is the architecture which we are following over here. So we have a Jenkins master, and we have 2 Jenkins slaves. And this Jenkins master is will be going to run all the jobs. So basically, that in testing phase, there are 2 slaves, and these slaves are running 2 jobs. These jobs are testing jobs. Okay, we have a Java code, and we are testing it. We have some we have used some plugins like Maven, TestNG, Selenium. All these plugins we have used for the testing part, and this will test our code. If the test is successful, then it will send, if the test is successful, it will send a notification to the developer that the code is fine. And if there is an error in the code, it will send a notification to the developer that there is an error in the code. Okay, if everything works fine in the testing phase, then we'll move to the deployment phase. And in deployment phase, we'll launch an instance. Okay, and if the instance is launched using the CloudFormation script, it will pass again a notification to the administrator that if the instance is launched or not. Or if it fails, it will send again a notification to the administrator that the instance has not deployed. And in the 4th phase, as we talked about, the 4th phase is about code deployment. Okay, in this phase, if we launch an instance, after launching an instance, if our Java code is right from the testing phase, it will be deployed on our Tomcat server. So if there will be some failure status, like a failure status can be due to internet connection or something like that, so it will retry. And here we have set like 2 retries or 3 retries. Okay, after 3 retries, if still it gives a failure status, then it will give a notification to the it will send a notification to the developer or the administrator that the deployment has failed. So this is how we are going to show a workflow of this scenario. So this is our Jenkins server, and we have slaves configured. Here you can see we have slaves, and this is our job. This is our master pipeline, which is we are going to run, and it will configure an environment for us. And I'll just click on build now. And this will implement the scenario which we took like of testing phase and as well as the deployment phase. So the testing phase has been started. Yeah, here we can see it is running 2 jobs parallelly. If you have any questions, you can ask. So this is the phase which we are following, and in this, as we discussed, that we are going to launch 2 jobs and different slaves. So here in our pipeline, here we can see these jobs are running in 2 different slaves, slave 1 and slave 2. Okay, I got a question from Facebook. If you guys are have joined from Facebook, and I've got a question. Sean is asking, how can we launch an CloudFormation script using YAML language? Okay, Sean, you can launch a CloudFormation script using JSON file also, and as well as YAML file also. But if JSON file, if you are coding with JSON, if you have to specify, you have to write a big code. But using YAML, it is very easy to do. Okay, I hope it helps you. Okay, I've got a question in YouTube. Okay, Alex is asking, how can we launch a CloudFormation script to configure LAMP stack? Okay, Alex, LAMP stack is basically your Linux Apache MySQL server, and using CloudFormation also you can launch a LAMP stack server on the cloud. Even you can set up your WordPress websites or your Wix website, everything you can set up using CloudFormation scripts. Okay, now here we can see, now we are in the deployment phase. And in the deployment phase, it is launching an instance. And if any of this thing fails, we'll get a notification. But right now, everything is working fine. Okay, one more guy is asking on Facebook, which plugin are we using on Jenkins? Oh, yeah, the name Sean. Sean is asking which plugin we are using in Jenkins for CloudFormation. So, Sean, we are using Jenkins CloudFormation plugin, and the other plugins which we have used are like, we have used Git plugin, we have used Maven plugin, we have used the Selenium plugins. So few plugins are by default installed in Jenkins. We are using a GitHub plugin. We are using Gradle plugin. And we are using pipeline plugin, as we are doing completely this process using pipeline. And we have a plugin called Jenkins CloudFormation. Yeah, this is the plugin, Jenkins CloudFormation plugin. So this plugin we are using for the CloudFormation, and to configure this plugin, you will need access key ID and secret access key of an IAM user. I hope this helps you, Sean. Okay. Okay, the deployment seems to be successful. Now it will send a mail to us, to the administrator. And here you can see it is finished and it is success. Now let's move to the mail. And here I have got a mail. And it has given an URL. As we discussed, we are going to deploy on AWS and we are using Tomcat server. So it has given a URL to access our Tomcat server. Yeah, so this is our code which we tested, and this is our code which we have deployed using Tomcat server, and everything process we have done this with the DevOps approach. Okay, we have done distributed testing, we have done deployment using AWS CloudFormation, everything we have automated. If you want to learn about CloudFormation, if you want to learn about software testing, here is our portal, itlearn360.com. And if I navigate to all courses, we have various courses. We provide industry leading courses. We provide top IT certifications. This is our Cloud Academy, DevOps Academy. We have automation testing. We have Agile and Scrum Academy, Code Academy. We have Digital Marketing Academy, Web Development Academy, Data Science Academy. All the top we cover all the top IT certification as well, all the top IT softwares and technologies we are covering here. And in cloud, we have AWS Solution Architect certifications. In DevOps, we have Docker certification. And as we discuss about CloudFormation, we have a course for CloudFormation as well. We have a certificate course for Jenkins. We have for GitHub. We have for Terraform. We have we have for testing. We have Selenium. We have automation testing is using TestNG. We have JMeter. So these all are the courses which we are offering, and these courses, these we have integrated all these things to create our this scenario. So if you have any doubts, you can ask on the chat window on Zoom. Okay, I got a message from Rima. She's asking, when you are testing job 1 and 2, then why are you deploying jobs 3 and 4? So Rima, in testing, in the testing phase, basically in the distributed testing, we have 2 jobs, job 1 and job 2. So in this testing phase, we have 2 jobs, job 1 and job 2, which are running on our slave nodes. And in this testing, what we are doing is we have a Java code. We are sending the Java code to our slaves, and we are doing some kind of testing and syntax errors and all kind of testing we are performing on these jobs. Okay, after this testing is done, if your code is good, then we are going to deploy that code. We are deploying it on our cloud instance. We are deploying it on a server. Let's take an example. Let's say you have written a Java code that you for a website basically. So what you need to do after your code is good, then what you do, you create a server, a Tomcat server, and you deploy that, you run that code on that Tomcat server. So that only we have done using Jenkins. Okay, after doing the testing part, we are launching an instance and we are configuring that instance with Tomcat server. We are basically automating that process using the CloudFormation, and after that we are sending we are deploying the code which we have tested. If everything is fine, then only it will launch an instance and it will deploy the code to our instance. I hope, Rima, this helps you. Okay, Rima says, I mean, you should deploy the jobs which you are testing. Yeah, we are deploying the jobs which we are testing. After the job 1 and job 2 is completed, I would like to hand it over to Sonam. She's our expert in software testing.
Okay. Hi, Rima, and thank you, Gaurav, for this call. So, Rima, here we are running job 1 and job 2. Okay, we are performing distributed testing here. Okay, let's take an example of IT Learn 360. There, you know, we have a search bar, we have a login page, we have so many things there. Okay, now after developing each and every module, we need to test it. Okay, so some of my testing is going on at the job 1. Okay, and some of my testing is going on at job 2, that is another slave. Now after this build, after this execution, it will give me a status. Okay, it will return back if the testing is successful. If my module is successfully tested, then only I can. Okay, so do you remember we have software development life cycle, the complete life cycle? First of all, we need to get a requirement, then we code, then we need to test it, and once testing is successfully done and the result is successful, then only we can deploy it. Okay, so what we are doing, we are actually testing our module on machine 1, that is on slave 1 and slave 2. Okay, once these both are successfully executed, the testing result is successful, then we are going to deploy it. Okay, so we are going to deploy this job 1 and job 2 only. Okay, I'll combine the result. If the result is successful, I'll call this job 3. Job 3 is for deployment. Okay, now this job 3 will come into the role. What it will do, it will create an instance of whatever the cloud related stuff it will perform, and then it will actually deploy your software or your product. Okay, without testing you can't deploy it. Now when you are testing it, there may be a different condition, like one of your job can fail, your job 2 can fail. So what we want both of our jobs should run properly with a build successful. Okay, if the testing or the build is successful, then we are launching job 3. If the condition is like that, your this testing phase fails. Okay, if you are getting the status as fail, we are not going to launch job 3. We can't launch job 3. Okay, so it's a condition. If your first testing phase is successful, then only you can go for deployment. I hope your doubt is clear now, and if not, you can ask your question here. Okay, and I would like to call Gaurav. Gaurav, please continue.
Yes, thanks, Sonam, for answering the question. And after all the testing and testing is done, we are deploying it on the cloud. And here is our after testing the code. This was the code which we used to in the testing part. And if the testing part is successful, then as we discussed that it will launch instance in the and configure it as a Tomcat server. And this is the URL which it has given to the administrator to access the website. So this is the code, Java code, which was tested, and this is the code which is deployed on a server. This is a Tomcat server. This is a live server running. So this is how we can implement testing, distributed testing, and deployment using the DevOps approach. Okay, here we have used Git, we have used Maven, we have used TestNG, we have used Jenkins, we have used AWS, and we have used all the essential things which are used in the DevOps life cycle. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, Naman Deshmukh says, I understand very well. I hope you all like this webinar. Thanks for joining.